Hey everybody, I'm Heidi from Hands Occupied here with another knitting video tutorial for you today. In this video, we are going to go over how to do the Kitchener stitch for garter stitch knitting. Not to be confused with moss stitch, seed stitch, or other knit and purl kinds of stitches, the Kitchener stitch is done by hand using a blunt tipped sewing needle. And essentially, you're sewing a horizontal row of knitting stitches by hand to invisibly join two pieces of knitting. Let me show you how to do it. To work the Kitchener stitch, you're going to need two sets of live stitches on your knitting needles. Live stitches are stitches that can be knit or purled into or even pulled out. Before sewing, ensure that there are purl bumps along the edge of both of your knitting needles. Also make sure that your stitches are not twisted. To begin your garter Kitchener stitch, wrong sides of your work must be facing each other, and you'll need a piece of yarn that's about 4 times the width of your project. Begin by threading your tapestry needle and doing the following 2 setup stitches. Insert your needle as if to purl the first available stitch on the knitting needle closest to you and draw the tail all the way through. Then insert your tapestry needle purlwise again into the first stitch on the back needle. Once again, draw the tail all the way through before bringing it down in between the 2 needles and around to the front of your work to continue. Now that the setup is done, we're going to insert our tapestry needle knitwise into the first stitch and sweep it off of the front needle. Then insert the tapestry needle purlwise into the subsequent stitch, leaving it on the needle closest to you. Moving to the back needle, insert the tapestry needle knitwise and sweep the first stitch off before inserting the needle purlwise in the second stitch and drawing the tail all the way through. You'll keep working in this way, slipping a stitch knitwise off the front needle and inserting the needle purlwise into the second stitch, before moving to the back and repeating the knitwise slip and inserting the needle purlwise into the second stitch action. It's actually a pretty easy repeat to remember, just slipping knitwise, insert purlwise, slipping knitwise, insert purlwise. The repeating pattern is a little bit different if you've ever done this with stockinette stitch, but it has to be knit purl for the garter stitch version of Kitchener stitch to work. You'll notice here that I am pausing to take a look at my funky tension, which is a good learning opportunity. If you're not careful about how you pull your yarn tails through each loop with Kitchener stitch, you may end up with stitches that are too tight or too loose, making your Kitchener stitch not so invisible. As you can see here, I'm manually adjusting my loosey-goosey tension from demonstrating this on video to get it just right. Another tip for working Kitchener stitch of any variety, garter, stockinette, or otherwise, is to count the number of loops on each needle as you go if you're unsure that you've been doing it correctly. There needs to be the same number of stitches on each needle for it to turn out. Now we've jumped to the last few stitches for this Kitchener stitch project. We're going to work just like before, inserting the needle knitwise and sweeping the stitch off, and then inserting purlwise and drawing it through. Again, knitwise and sweep, purlwise and draw through, being careful not to drop your stitches. On the final 2 loops of our work, all we've got to do is the first half of the repeat. Working with the loop on the needle closest to us, we're going to bring the tail in between the needles and insert knitwise before sweeping off the front stitch, and again knitwise before sweeping off the back stitch. And draw the tail all the way through. Zooming out, you can see my slightly messy Kitchener stitch seam here, and once I weave all these ends in and block this cowl, it should be pretty invisible. Where those 2 red tails are is right where that seaming just happened that you saw in this video. And that was how to do Kitchener stitch for garter stitch knitting. I also have a video on this channel for how to do it for stockinette stitch if you're looking for that. If you've got any questions though, go ahead and reach out in the comments. Give a thumbs up if you like what you saw, and subscribe for even more yarn craft tutorials. I've been Heidi, thank you so much for watching.